Swift like this, everywhere I go, all I hear is this. Yes, I must confess. That's smooth. Ain't nobody ripping like me. F to the E-R-G-I-E.
Dr. Pepper Cherry. It's amazingly smooth.
The Fergie Dr. Pepper commercial provides us not only another great opportunity to talk about semiotics, it's also a good opportunity to discuss whether or not Dr. Pepper is employing the central route to persuasion or the peripheral route to persuasion. So I'll give you a minute to take a look at the slide. And you probably already figured it out actually quite quickly, I would assume, given that soft drink is a fairly low involvement product. So they would really have to appeal rather strongly to emotion, which they've done, largely through the clever use of semiotics in that piece. So let's talk a little bit about the results of learning. An attitude is our evaluation of some idea or object. An important advertising objective is developing messages that foster positive brand attitudes. For mature brands and categories with familiar, frequently purchased products, brand interest is even more critical for motivating action. Brand interest is an individual's openness or curiosity about a brand. Enjoyable, entertaining advertising can enhance interest in the brand and reduce the variety-seeking tendencies of consumers who become bored with using the same old product. Attitude is the mental side and habit the behavioral side of the same coin. Habit is the acquired behavior pattern that becomes nearly or completely automatic. It's the natural extension of learning. We really are creatures of habit. The major objective of all brand marketers is to produce brand loyalty, a direct result of the habit of repurchasing and the reinforcement of continuous advertising. Brand loyalty is the consumer's conscious or unconscious decision, expressed through intention or behavior, to repurchase a brand continually. It occurs because the consumer perceives that the brand offers the right product features, image, quality, or relationship at the right price. Motivation refers to the underlying forces or motives that foster actions. These motives stem from the conscious or unconscious goal of satisfying our needs and wants. Needs are the basic, often instinctive human desires that motivate us to do something. Wants are needs that we learn during our lifetime. To better understand what motivates people, Abraham Maslow developed the classic model called the hierarchy of needs. Maslow maintained that the lower physiological and safety needs dominate human behavior and must be satisfied before the higher socially acquired needs or wants become meaningful. The highest need, self-actualization, is the culmination of fulfilling all the lower needs and realizing one's true potential. The most common energizers of consumer behavior are the negatively originated motives, including problem removal and problem avoidance. Whenever we run out of something, for instance, we experience a negative mental state. To relieve those feelings, we actively seek a new or replacement product. Thus, we are temporarily motivated until the time we make the purchase. Then, if the purchase is satisfactory, the drive or motivation is reduced. These are also called informational motives because the consumer often seeks information to reduce the negative mental state. With the positively originated motives, a positive bonus is promised rather than the removal or reduction of some negative situation. The goal is to use positive reinforcement to increase the consumer's motivation and to energize the consumer's investigation or search for the new product. The three positively originated motives, sensory gratification, intellectual stimulation, and social approval, are also called transformational motives because the consumer expects to be transformed in a sensory, intellectual, or social sense. They could also be called reward motives because the transformation is a rewarding state. For advertisers, it's not enough to just know the personal process of perception, learning, and persuasion and motivation. Important interpersonal influences affect, sometimes even dominate, these processes. They also serve as guidelines for consumer behavior. These influences can best be categorized as the family, the society, and the cultural environment of the consumer. From an early age, family communication affects our socialization as consumers, our attitudes toward many products, and our purchasing habits. This influence is usually strong and long. Family influence has changed in the United States over the last 35 years, as working parents take a less active role in raising their children, and youngsters look outside the family for social values. As this happens, the influence of the social and cultural environments intensifies. Our community exerts a strong influence on all of us. When we affiliate with a particular societal division, or identify with some reference group, or value the ideas of certain opinion leaders, it affects our views on life, our perceptual screens, and eventually the products we buy. Sociologists traditionally divided societies into social classes, upper middle, lower middle, and so on. They believed that people in the same social class tended to have similar attitudes, status symbols, and spending patterns. But today, that doesn't apply to most developed countries. U.S. society especially is extremely fluid and mobile, physically, socially, and economically. Because of this mobility, dramatic increases in immigration, and the high divorce rate, social class boundaries have become quite muddled. Most of us care how we appear to people whose opinions we value. We may even pattern our behavior after members of some group we affiliate with. This is the significance of reference groups, people we try to emulate or whose approval concerns us. Reference groups can be personal, such as family, friends, or coworkers, or impersonal, such as political parties, religious denominations, professional associations. A special reference group, our peers, exerts tremendous influences on what we believe and how we behave. An opinion leader is some person or organization whose beliefs or attitudes are respected by people who share an interest in some specific activity. All fields, sports, religion, fashion, politics, have opinion leaders. An opinion leader may be some expert we find credible. We reason, if LeBron James thinks Nike makes the best athletic shoes, then it must be so. He knows more about the sport than I do. Thus, the purchasing habits and testimonials of opinion leaders are important to advertisers. Culture has a tenacious influence on consumers. Culture refers to the whole set of meanings, beliefs, attitudes, and ways of doing things that are shared by some homogeneous social group and typically handed down from generation to generation. Many consider the United States to be a colorful tapestry of subcultures. A subculture is a segment within a culture that shares a set of meanings, values, or activities that differ in certain respects from those of the overall culture. Consumers evaluate selection alternatives, called the evoked set. To do this, they establish evaluative criteria, the standards they use to judge the features and benefits of alternative products. Not all brands make it to the evoked set. In fact, based on their mental files, most consumers usually consider only 4 or 5 brands, which presents a real challenge to advertisers. If none of the alternatives meets the evaluative criteria, the consumer may reject the purchase entirely or postpone the decision. A key feature of the post-purchase evaluation is cognitive dissonance. The theory of cognitive dissonance holds that people strive to justify their behavior by reducing the dissonance or inconsistency between their cognitions, which are their perceptions or beliefs, and reality. In fact, research shows that to combat dissonance, consumers are more likely to read ads for brands they've already purchased than for new products or competing brands. In the 1980s, Richard Vaughan at Foot Cone and Belding took the fact that different kinds of products typically evoke different levels of consumer involvement, either high or low, and different types of involvement, either cognitive, thinking, or affective, feeling, and concluded, therefore, that different products called for different kinds of advertising. He created a 2-dimensional model known as the FCB grid, which categorized consumer products into 4 quadrants based on high involvement or low involvement and think or feel. By positioning brands in the grid based on the degree and type of involvement consumers brought to the purchase decision, the agency could determine which types of advertising would be most appropriate. A product's location on the grid also indicates how the product is purchased and how advertising copy should be written, more emotional or more rational. High involvement / thinking products lend themselves to logical explanations, and consumers will probably follow the traditional learn, feel, do model. At the other extreme, high involvement / feeling products are more likely to stress emotional motives, and consumers may follow a feel, learn, do sequence. In the case of low involvement products, which are associated with routinized or impulse purchase behavior, learning and feeling may not occur until after doing. In such cases, simply gaining exposure or awareness may be the primary advertising objective. I'd be curious where you would classify your product in terms of the grid. So let's look at a more recent iteration, which I think will be a little bit easier. More recently, Kim and Lord recognized that people can be both cognitively and affectively involved at the same time. So they developed a variation of the FCB grid. The Kim-Lord grid also depicts the degree and the kind of involvement a consumer brings to the purchase decision for different products. Some purchases, like cars, require a high degree of personal involvement on both the cognitive and affective levels. For others, like detergent, involvement is low on both axes. Sometimes a marketer uses an advertising strategy aimed at shifting the product to higher involvement on either axis. So where would your product fit? Where would the product, service, or idea of your classmates fit? I look forward to hearing more in this week's discussion forum.